Hello, it's locked in. Welcome in, Steve Bonham, Mason Cameron, Vishaal Gupta down there in the bottom. How you guys doing tonight?
Spectacular.
Excellent.
The enthusiasm.
Always. At least we have a good game this time around.
It was usually supposed to be a good game. I don't know if you'd call this good so far.
Well, I mean,
I was gonna say
it's
good from
but it's like
a standpoint, not from a betting or
a good. Goodness gracious, just the last few weeks have just been rough.
So here we are. We are back again to do our picks this week. Again, we are over still. This is brutal. This is rough. We have been robbed on several occasions.
Multiple bad beats.
Constant bad beats. My ticket last week, we were just talking about before we went live here. I had 2 out of the 3. And of course, the one that missed was the one that I put on the locks. And that was the one that missed on the locks. So close. We're right there, guys. But again, if you're on the Discord and you are playing along with us on the Discord, as of right now with our primetime picks, if you've been playing along with everything, you are up $45. So if you're not already in the Discord, it's $3 to join the quarterback tier. Join the Discord, join the Patreon, get the work of these gentlemen. See their content every Saturday. And congrats, man. Killing it right now. And the rankings for everything. Against the spread, money line, and the over-unders. Your top 6 in every category right now.
I'm going for that sweep. I'm going for
go.
The goal is to finish first and everything.
He's putting them on notice.
That's right. And right now, Mason, you are number 1 in the money
coming for you.
That's right.
That's
right.
Again,
that's okay. We're right there. I just want to take it home for the IN crew here.
You're number 1 in the money line. Everybody just needs to know that that's you.
Yeah, right.
They refuse to give you your blue chip for some reason. We're still trying to work that out.
I like to earn it. I want Underdog. If you're here watching, I'm coming for my chip.
He's gonna earn the chip. All right, here you go. So here's how you earn the chip, Mason. Give us your picks for this week. What do you got?
Okay, we've got a slate of good ones this week, guys. So first off, I want to take a second to commend Underdog for the huge slate that they put out this week and putting it out early. Yeah. Thank you, Underdog. Much appreciated for myself. So for starters, I'm going to pull out one that they haven't done a whole lot of this year, and we got a touchdown prop. We're going to take DeAndre Hopkins to score a rushing or receiving touchdown this week. So
I feel like adding in the rushing part of that is just like a cherry on top.
It's
right?
just right. It's just
They're
a cherry.
He's even more ways.
He might not get that touch, but you know what? If he does, you're covered. Don't worry, we got you. So through the first 3 weeks, Hopkins he went from like extremely spectacular in week 1 to kind of like underwhelming the next 2 weeks. But he had a little bit of a bounce back here this past week, and we're going to actually buy into him continuing that trend. So even though he's been quote unquote underperforming, Hopkins still has 3 receiving touchdowns in 4 games. That's tied for 9th in the NFL. That's something that just can't be ignored. He gets almost 25% of the red zone targets. Surprisingly, AJ Green actually also gets right up there too. They tend to get most of the looks down there. I expect him to get quite a few this week. So they're at home against San Francisco. San Francisco just hasn't had that D that they had last year. They're pretty middling across the board in most defensive categories. But why we're taking advantage of them specifically this week is they've allowed a wide receiver touchdown 3 of the 4 games this season and 2 in each of the last 2 contests. So that just screams to me huge value. After that, we're going to keep with the wide receivers. I love my wide receivers. They make the world go round. So Jamar Chase over 66.5 receiving yards. So I love thinking back to the days when everybody was hitting the panic button on Jamar Chase having a little bit of a rough preseason and saying some kind of outlandish stuff about the shape of the ball or something.
Right.
But now, I mean, look at where we are now. He and Joe Burrow are right back where they left off at LSU. Chase leads the team in receiving yardage just by a hair, but by a good bit in yards per reception. Tyler Boyd has been good this year, but T. Higgins has been dealing with some injuries and some limited targets. So Chase is going to continue to remain heavily involved in this offense going forward. He's obviously Joe's favorite target. And this week they're at home against Green Bay. Now, Green Bay has been kind of like hit or miss in the secondary this year. They're the perfect personification of kind of how they've played is well in yards, but horrible in touchdowns. They gave up, in week 1, Jameis Winston had 150 yards, but 5 touchdowns. So they've just like been struggling in the secondary, and it just doesn't look like it quite on paper because they haven't been giving up huge yardages, but they're still bad. And they've all done that without playing any really good passers. They played Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Detroit, New Orleans, all kind of middling passers. And this week they go without their number 1 corner, Jair Alexander, who's doubtful with a shoulder injury. Luckily for Kevin King, he's also questionable with a concussion. Not lucky that he's got a concussion, but lucky because he might not be out there to get flambéed by Jamar Chase and company. So that's, might help him. I don't know how he values his pride, but that's the way we're going there. I think that 66.5 is an easy over there, especially when they haven't been good and are going to be without their main sources of success. And then lastly, we have Nick Chubb over 90 yards. I know that this seems like a high number, but Nick Chubb is one of the most impressive backs in the league. Even with Kareem Hunt cutting into his workload, he's still one of the league's premier rock toters. He averages over 5 yards a carry. He sits behind only Derrick Henry in total rushing yards this season. I mean, it is by a sizable margin, but 2 is still very good. They're on the road this week against the Chargers, and the Chargers have played well, but they have a weak spot in the run D. They allow almost 5.3 yards per carry. That's 3rd worst in the NFL. Even at his lowest point, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when the Chiefs played them, rushed for over 100. So if Clyde can do that, I think Nick can do that. Baker's also this week struggling with a shoulder injury that he had last week. So we'll see exactly how much he's, whipping the rock around. I expect them to kind of run it quite a bit.
All right. Yeah. And again, we talked about in the preseason how Jamar Chase is the alpha. He's the 1. Even though he's a rookie, we know he's the number 1 there. And T. Higgins is the 2. He just has to be healthy. So that's panned out so far this year. Jamar Chase has looked good. He's played really well. It's just interesting that with that offense, with Burrow, with how they've played, like they have the 6th lowest right now pass rate, only throwing the ball 53% of the time. So it's very interesting that they've been a little more conservative than we've expected, and yet Jamar Chase still having a big year.
Right.
All right, Vishaal, what do you got?
All right, so let's start with Corey Davis over 58.5 receiving yards.
And I will put a little like asterisk on this as well, because this one is now off the board.
It's off the board. All right.
That's right. So you got it just in time. You're like me with one of my picks.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, I like this one. He's averaging 64 yards receiving per game. He's clearly Zach Wilson's favorite target so far through the first 4 weeks because he leads the team in targets, and he's going up against an Atlanta secondary that's just god awful. I mean, they allowed every quarterback to go off on them, including Taylor Heineke last week. I mean, this should just be one of the easier matchups that Zach Wilson will have during his rookie season, and I just think Corey Davis will have no problem accumulating the yards this week in London.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. You mentioned it there. That's the London game, so it's early morning for all of us here, and it's overseas. So those games can be a little bit wonky. I don't like relying on them for fantasy purposes, but I do agree that he's the primary target there for sure.
Yeah, and it'll be nice to wake up with a win already in hand. Second pick, I'm going to go over 69.5 receiving and rushing yards for Chase Edmonds. This is one of the crazier numbers I've seen throughout the start of the season. he's averaging 99 total yards per game. So he's already averaging 30 more yards than this line. He's gone over 69.5 total yards in every single game this year. So I'm not sure why this number is so low. I think Mason mentioned it that, San Francisco's D is fine, but they're not elite or anything. They have some nice players, but they're not like amazing against, the run or the pass. Chase Edmonds will have plenty of opportunities to get his yards. And yeah, I don't know why this number is so low. I would even take the over if this is at like 90 or something. So I'll take the over on 69.5 total yards for Edmonds. And then the final one is under 285.5 passing yards for Justin Herbert. This number is definitely inflated. Everybody's totally on the Herbert bandwagon right now after what he did the last 2 weeks. But if people actually look at his numbers, he's gone under this number the past 2 games, including the game against Kansas City and the Monday night game. And now he's going up against a Cleveland defense that's allowing less than 185 yards passing per game through the first 4 weeks. The only guy who's gone over is Patrick Mahomes in week 1. And that was just because, he's awesome. Plus, KC was down for a lot of that game, so he had to throw the ball to keep the team in that one. And I don't think that's going to happen this week. I don't think the Chargers are going to find themselves down that big and that early on. So I'll take the under on 285.5 passing yards.
All right, yeah, I absolutely agree there, V, because that's kind of why I leaned in with Nick Chubb there too, because if they can't stop the run, what's going to give Herbert the ball back? They're going to have a tough time. It's going to reduce possessions and reduce his chances to hit that over.
Right. I think that game to me, when you have the defense that Cleveland has, plus you have, like you mentioned, the Chargers struggling against the run, and then you've got both Hunt and Chubb working out of the backfield there for Cleveland. It just screams low scoring game to me, even though their offenses are both pretty decent.
Yep.
Right.
All right. So then for me, I have Jacoby Myers over 54.5 receiving yards. That is off the board right now. So I was able to get that while it was still up there. Neil and I talked about this on the podcast last night. Jacoby Myers is a breakout wide receiver waiting to happen. He is right now one of 8, we mentioned it last night, wide receivers in the league that has at least 40 targets. He is crushing it. He is getting so much target share, so much volume in that offense. There have been 5 wide receivers this season who have beat Houston for this number, 54.5 receiving yards in their 4 games so far this year. I mentioned Myers. He's got 26 targets over his last 2 games. That's insane. He went 6 catches for 44 yards against Miami, 4 for 38 against the Jets, which was his worst game of the year. And then the last 2 weeks, 9 for 84 against New Orleans, 8 for 70 against Tampa Bay. So he has been putting up the numbers. He's just not getting in the end zone, which is why his fantasy numbers aren't eye-popping and people aren't really talking about him yet. But as soon as he starts scoring touchdowns, you absolutely will be. So he is someone I've been targeting in trades. He is someone I am targeting here because this number is not justified in my opinion. Mike Gaseki. I am not a fan of Mike Gaseki. That is a well-known fact at this point. I don't believe in the talent or the player. However, they have set his over-under mark at 40.5 receiving yards, and I will easily take the over on that. They're going up against the defending champs in Tampa Bay, and their secondary is not great. But in addition to that, you have both Kyle Pitts and Dalton Schultz, who both went over this 40.5 mark. Tyler Higbee got 40 yards exactly in the Rams game against Tampa Bay, and Hunter Henry had 32 yards in the Sunday night game for New England against Tampa. So tight ends in general have been succeeding so far against that Tampa Bay defense, and Gaseki, since Jacoby Brissett has taken over under center, is averaging 8 targets, 6 receptions, and 61.3 yards in each of those games. So I will gladly take the over in what will hopefully be the last start for Jacoby Brissett before Tua can return. And then Robbie Anderson, I've continued to say that Robbie Anderson is done. Under 47.5 yards. They're going up against a Philadelphia defense that has been kind of weird so far. They gave up 186 yards to Tyreek Hill, but who's the number 2 wide receiver for Kansas City? I mean, right now it's probably Josh Gordon, right? And he hasn't played football in 3 years. They gave up 93 yards to Deebo Samuel, and that was still when Brandon Ayuk was in the doghouse and barely getting snaps. So they had no legitimate number 2. The number 2 target on both of those teams is the tight end, and the tight end was being worked in well, but there was no other wide receiver option. So then you look at their games against the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb had 66 yards, but Amari Cooper only had 26. Calvin Ridley had 51 yards. Russell Gage had no catches on his 3 targets. So the number 1 receiver does all right in an offense. And we have established that DJ Moore is easily far and away the number 1 receiver on this Carolina offense. The number 2 receiver has struggled against Philadelphia so far this year. And Robbie Anderson has struggled anyway. 47.5 receiving yards would be his second best game of the year. That's insane. He had a 57-yard week 1 against the Jets. And again, it's not even that he's like not getting involved or not being utilized at all. Last week, he had 11 targets.
Wow.
And he still didn't even hit 40 yards receiving. So Robbie Anderson is just not usable in fantasy, and I think that number is still way too inflated and too high. So let's look at what we've got now.
We don't have any more ways of telling you that Robbie Anderson's toast, guys.
bad.
I'm sorry to tell you.
Sorry.
There's just no more ways of saying it.
So again, Jacoby Myers, Corey Davis currently off the board. So the world is yours, Mason. You have all 3 of your choices.
Yeah.
So what would you like to start us off with here?
Oh, let's see. So I really like the Hopkins pick, and I'm really torn between the Nick Chubb pick. I think I might hit the Hopkins pick because I'm confident. I'm confident that they're going to get that touchdown across because San Francisco is very middling. So I think that's a good pick there. Yeah.
Vishaal, what do you want to go with here?
I'll stay with the same game. I'll take over for Chase Edmonds. Again, he's averaging 99 total yards per game. He's gone over this mark easily in all 4 games. I'm not sure why this number is so low, so I'll take Chase Edmonds.
All right, and I am going to take Mike Gaseki hitting that over. Like I said, with Brissett under center, he has been just looking for Mike Gaseki. Unlike Tua, the checkdowns have not been going to the running backs. They've been going to Gaseki. I think this is another situation as well. This is going to be a good week. I'm literally betting on it that this is going to be a good week once more for Gaseki. But once Tua comes back into the lineup, I think this is a perfect sell high situation if he is able to cash once again. So I will submit that. I will put that up on Twitter and all of our pages and play along. And I feel good about this, but I felt good about all of them. But
they have all been good. The logic was sound on all of them.
The logic has been there for sure.
It's just the variance.
Yes, we're gonna get hot soon. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Exactly. Hot streak coming in. And like I said, that's the beauty part about this is you only have to hit like 1 or 2 of these, and it makes up for your entire season. So we'll get there. We're working on it. But again, if you're playing along with us, Underdog Fantasy promo code nonsense. There it is, Underdog Fantasy promo code nonsense. You get free $10 if you're your first time depositor or if you're creating an account. Join the Patreon, importantnonsense.com/Patreon, or the other way around, patreon.com/importantnonsense, and $3 tier. Go read the beautiful work that these boys are doing and follow all of our picks in the Discord. Come chat and have fun with us. All right. Until next week, everybody.
Ask us for our picks. All of them right there in the Discord.
That's right.
We can't even say no because we have to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to. So
required by their contracts. Contractually obligated, some might say. All right. Until next week, everybody, have a good one.